We have long been told that reducing our intake of saturated fat will help lower our blood cholesterol, and doing that will help reduce our risk of heart disease. My guest has a very different take on diet and heart disease. He has long argued that trans fats, found in a wide range of processed foods, pose a much greater risk than cholesterol. When he first started talking about this in the late 1950s, few were listening. But over the decades, the evidence has accumulated, and now it seems the Food and Drug Administration has almost caught up. Last fall, the FDA proposed a rule that would effectively ban hydrogenated oils, the main dietary source of trans fats. I am very pleased to welcome to Illinois Pioneers Fred Kummerow. He is Emeritus Professor of Comparative Biosciences at the University of Illinois. And Professor Kummerow, thank you very much.
Glad to be here.
For being here. One thing that I'm really interested in hearing about is how it is that you became a chemist. Was this something that fascinated you from the point when you were young?
When I went to high school in Milwaukee, there was a high school there that had 3 years of chemistry. And so I could say I fell in love with chemistry. And then after that, I worked at a wholesale drug company, and I made cold creams, all kinds of things in the lab there. And I went to night school 4 nights a week, taking English, German, and French, which is required for a chemistry course, at night. And during the day, I worked in this wholesale drug company 48 hours a week. And then I did that for 2.5 years, and then I decided I'd go to day school at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. I did that for a semester, and in June, I went to the Miller's Brewing Company, and I got a job there in a bottle house. And so I worked there for the summer and made $300, which was enough to pay for my first semester at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks after I got there, I had signed up for NYA, that's National Youth Administration, which President Roosevelt had made available to universities. And the university had to match half of it. And I was told to go to the biochemistry department and ask for Dr. Steenbach, Harry Steenbach. And he was a very famous professor. He had shown how vitamin D was caused, and how that vitamin D was necessary to prevent rickets. And I worked there first as an undergraduate student for 3 years, from 1933 to 1936. And then got my bachelor's degree in chemistry, and immediately started out in biochemistry with Dr. Steenbach, my mentor. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got to be a chemist, a biochemist.
And so you had it sounds as if you had this long interest in chemistry, and you wanted to study that, but because you ended up as an assistant in the biochem lab, it was biochemistry and not some other kind of chemistry.
That's right. That's right.
Was there at some point where you particularly became interested in the chemistry of fats?
Yes, because I did my senior thesis for my master's degree and for my PhD degree. I worked with animals, feeding in animals fats and seeing what happened to them. And so that's how I got interested in the fat chemistry, you might say. And then after getting my degree in biochemistry, my PhD in biochemistry, I was provided a job by somebody who had been in the laboratory, in Mr. Steenbach's laboratory, and had gotten a professorship at Clemson College in South Carolina. And that they were working on pellagra, which is a disease that was endemic in the South for a long, long time. And it was killing people. And at the University of Wisconsin, it was shown that niacin could cure pellagra. And that was shown in 1938, but nothing was done about it for 5 years. So that in 1943, I came to Clemson College, and we figured out how to prevent that. And it was I won't go through the process, but I can just tell you that I took that process to Chicago, where I had a meeting with the National Science Foundation and the millers, corn millers that were sending their corn to the South. The corn grits are really degermed corn. That this germ is taken out of the corn and then broken up into grits. And that was a very favored food in all of the South, and still is today. And so I went to the University of Wisconsin after this meeting, and they agreed, by the way, to do this. And I talked to the head of the department, the biochemistry department, and told him what I had seen in the South. So he told me of a job at Kansas State University. So I was given funds from Kansas State University to come there for an interview, and I was hired at Kansas State University. That was in 1950. That was the spring of 1950. And I spent 5 years there working with the chemistry of fats. And one of the things they did, one of the grants I had was from the Army Quartermaster Corps. And it involved in getting turkeys to the South Seas, frozen turkeys to the South Seas, so that they could still be edible. And at the time that they did this with turkeys, that didn't happen. They were inedible. So my job then was to find out how I could do that, how to make them edible. And I found that ordinary turkeys were being fed linseed meal. And so I fed one group of turkeys. I had freshly hatched turkeys, poults, and fed them in linseed meal as one protein source and corn as another. And then when they were mature, the poultry department at Kansas State College sacrificed them for me and packed them up in plastic bags, and then we took them to the local freezer where you could bring in foods to freeze them. And I left them there for 6 months, and then brought them back. And the head of the food science, home eco department, had a taste panel which tasted them, and they could tell the difference, which was being fed to linseed meal and which was being fed to cornmeal. And so I got a citation for that from the Quartermaster Corps. And of course, that's now what's being done. Now in supermarkets, you can buy frozen turkeys and frozen chickens.
So for all of this poultry now, it's good, you can freeze it, and it still tastes good, and that's because of the work that you did.
That's right.
So clearly you were interested in the chemistry of fats.
Yeah.
And you had at least done some work taking a look at the relationship between diet and health. Was there some point that you became particularly interested in heart disease?
Well, that was in 1957. And in 1957, I got some autopsy material from Carl Clinic here. And I found that they had, like the hearts and arteries and liver had up to 19% trans fat in it. And I published that in Science magazine. And Science is an American Association of Advancement of Science, a widely read journal all over the world. So that was a start.
So this is where your thinking about trans fats really begins.
Yes.
You had blood vessels from people who had died from heart attacks.
Yes.
You looked in there, and there was all clogged up with trans fat.
Trans fat was there.
And again, we're talking about these kind of artificial fats, a contaminant of these artificial fats that's commonly found in a wide range of processed foods, and
right.
had been by that time since the 19-teens.
Yeah.
Food manufacturers have been putting them in, so it was very common. So at that point, you looked at these blood vessels and said, well, look at this, it's full of trans fat. That must mean trans fat is an issue in people's diet. Now, when you wrote about this, you talked about it, what did people who dealt with heart disease say?
Well, they didn't believe it. And I also fed the trans fat to rats. And I found the same deposits of these things in the rat tissue. And when we took them out, when we fed rats and took out the trans fat, a month later they were gone. They were metabolized. So you can metabolize, you can remove these kind of fats from your diet if you just don't eat them. And that's where we are at this point. That if the FDA succeeds in what they had proposed, the Americans will no longer be eating this kind of fat, and they'll have it all metabolized, and less people will die of this.
And this is now has to do with this rule that has been proposed by the FDA, was proposed in the fall of 2013. We're now talking in the summer of 2014.
Yes, yes.
That would effectively ban these hydrogenated oils from
the diet.
From the diet.
Yes.
How much longer do you think it will take before that actually happens?
Well, the FDA had 1,500 comments. You had a comment line that you could answer from the time it was proposed to March 18th. And they had 1,500 comments that they're going through now. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, they put this on their web, and you can see who's banning, who's asking for a ban. Now, the industry was not very happy with this. And they all proposed to keep it in the diet. But I think they've gotten around to the point where they're agreeing to keep it out. And they're working on that right now.
Just to go back for a moment, when I said to you, well, when you discussed your findings about trans fats with people who worked on heart disease and they said they didn't believe it, did you actually say, well, look, I have the blood vessels here, let me show it to you? How could someone not believe it if you said, well, here it is?
Well, I don't know, but that was the case.
Part of this, I think, that it had something to do with the fact that you were not a cardiologist?
Yes, they at a meeting in 1975, the Federal Trade Commission had a hearing. And when I was a witness on June 15th, 1975, the judge asked me, what do you think about eggs in a diet? And I said eggs was a good source of protein. And I didn't know at that time what caused heart disease, but I do know now. As my book shows, cholesterol is not the culprit. Mm-hmm. But my testimony was disqualified because I was a chemist, biochemist, and not a cardiologist. Because at that time, all the cardiologists that testified said that cholesterol causes heart disease, and therefore, because cholesterol is in an egg, don't eat cholesterol.
Now, I guess we should acknowledge that while now I think many heart disease researchers would acknowledge that you were and are right about trans fats, they still have a big problem with what you've just said about cholesterol.
Yeah. Well, in the United States, yes, but not in Europe. They all believe that cholesterol is not the problem. MDs, the researchers and MDs.
Mm-hmm. Something else that maybe we ought to touch on is I think that you also have some concerns about what happens to oils, and the oils that we're otherwise told are healthy are heated to high temperatures.
That's another problem, yes. If they're heated at high temperature, there's a compound formed that if you feed to rats, you'll find it changes the fatty acid composition of their arteries. And so if you eat too much fried fats and prepared in this fat, now the fat's perfectly okay if it isn't overused. Mm-hmm. But if it's overused, it causes problems when you eat this kind of fat.
So your bottom line dietary advice would be, and something that you follow, is no trans fats, right. Don't eat anything deep fried, and in the context of an otherwise healthy diet, milk, eggs, meat, cheese, in moderation.
Correct.
Okay.
Make that part of your diet. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones that contain what is called the essential amino acids. Biochemists have shown that you need 8 essential amino acids you have to get from the diet. The body cannot make them. The liver we have does a wonderful job. If you give it the 8 amino acids from the diet, it makes protein in the liver, and then it makes 1,000 enzymes from this protein, which regulate what your body has to do. And the book shows how each one of these enzymes have a specific thing to do in the body. So how this all works together is still being worked on by biochemists.
Do you think, though, that we consume too much vegetable oil? These oils that, again, otherwise we're told are okay, corn oil, soybean oil,
well,
so forth?
Even the unhydrogenated ones, we're trying to eat more of those. But that's not really true. We need the saturated fats too. You were asking me about saturated fats. Mm-hmm. That's another problem. The saturated fat is needed, just like the potatoes and carbohydrate is a source of carbohydrates. Saturated fat is a source of energy. The saturated fats are broken down and are made available to the cells as a source of energy. Mm-hmm. So you have 2 sources of energy, either potatoes and things like corn or legumes. Those are sources of protein. Or you have sources from animal products, and they all contain all of the essential amino acids, and they have better biological activity than the vegetable fats. That vegetable fats don't contain cholesterol. Animal fats do. Mm-hmm. So that's why the beginnings of when the people who are working on this first began, they convinced the doctors that were on boards that decided what people should be eating do not eat animal fats because they contain cholesterol, and vegetable fats do not contain cholesterol. So they recommended that we should eat vegetable fats as a protein source. But vegetable fats don't have all of the amino acids that you need. They have all but one. They miss one amino acid they don't have. And that's different kinds of amino acids in different kinds of food. But in vegetable fats, that's what you eat.
We talked a little bit about how you got interested in, how you started looking at trans fats. And this was, I believe, in the late 50s, 1957. It was when you first started writing about and talking about the hazards posed by trans fats. Yeah. Now, I do think it's the case, and maybe you indeed had something to do with it, that maybe starting about in the 60s, food manufacturers started, maybe slowly, but they started pulling these hydrogenated oils out of food. So I think actually today people eat less hydrogenated oil than they did, say, 10 years ago.
Well, and this happened in 2003 when the Food and Drug Administration required labeling of the foods, how much trans fat was in the fat. Mm-hmm. And so that brought attention to the fact that these foods contained trans fat. And some of them, if they labeled it contained 0.5 gram per serving, they could say it was free of trans fat, which wasn't really true.
This is something I especially wanted to ask you about, because I know it's something that kind of made you angry, and I think that you complained about this to the FDA. That is, if you have less than 0.5%,
half a gram per serving.
Less than half a gram.
Half a gram per
serving of trans fat. So you can still have that much trans fat, but on your package you can say that it doesn't have any.
That's right. That's right. And you can say also on your package, then there are 5 margarines on the grocery shelf today that said how much it has in it. It has from 1 to 2 grams of trans fat. And we find this kind of fat, if you eat, remember there are 33,000 samples of trans fat in different food items, and I have that much.
We're really at the point where we're going to have to stop, and I appreciate you giving us so much of your time. We've talked about some of your ideas about the relationship between diet and health, and I know that you would advise people should get regular exercise. That's good. Your mom, I believe, lived to be 97, so you were lucky you got some good genes.
Adult genes, I would probably part of it too, yes. Yeah. I would agree with that.
Well, what else would you say to people who would just say, well, tell me, Professor Kummerow, what's the secret of long life?
The secret of long life is to have your mind active, have your body active, and eat right, eat the things you're supposed to eat, and not eat junk foods that don't have all the amino acids in it. And what else would it be?
And you think that if we can get to the point where we're keeping people healthier physically,
yes,
that we then can get at things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's that deteriorate them mentally?
I think that there'll be less of it. Yes, I think there'll be less of Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. Yes, I will. It will.
Well, that's where we're going to stop. Thank you very much, Professor Kummerow.
Well, I'm glad to talk to you.
We appreciate it. And we also want to say thanks to you for watching, and we hope that you will join us again next time for another edition of Illinois Pioneers.